BSing with
Who?
BSing with
What?
BSing with Sean K. BSing with
Who?
BSing with
What?
BSing with Sean K. BSing with
Who?
BSing with
What?
Welcome to BSing with Sean K on Radio Free Brooklyn. I'm your host, Sean Kneese, and on this show I talk with people who live outside the box, artists, comedians, actors, bloggers, writers, activists, and other people pursuing the creative and intellectual passions.
Hi, I'm John the Eagle here for World Galactic Dumb Wrestling, and this is a blood feud match. These two competed at StarMania 8, 999, or StarMania 8, 9000. My God, they're going at it. Wait a minute, what's this? The referee's running in.
And in this episode, I'm going to play you a conversation I had with my friend Donovan Santiago. That was a clip from his one-man show that he performed at the Pit Loft with his character Captain Ego. And he's done one-man shows with other characters he's created. And he's also an improviser. He's on a house team at the Pit that performs Monday nights. Well, obviously not right now because what's going on with the coronavirus. But when the world's in a normal state, he does perform on Monday nights at the Pit when it's not the apocalypse. Not that this is the apocalypse. He is an actor and an aspiring WWE host. He's interviewed WWE wrestlers. Here's a clip of him interviewing famous WWE wrestler Daniel Bryan.
Daniel Bryan, I've got one bold question for you.
Okay.
I was wondering, when do you plan to shave your beard? Or are you going to let your beard grow long enough so you can be a stunt beard for Gandalf? That's what I want to know.
That's a great question. I mean, you have tremendous energy, courage, all that kind of stuff. It's intimidating to be in front of all these cameras and everything.
But
And
I'm
you're,
with Daniel Bryan, former world champion.
you're handling it great. Okay, so the answer to the question. Okay, come close. Come close. A little bit closer. Okay. No! 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 Why?
I met Donovan when I used to do a lot more background and extra work. Background work is like, the people who see in the background in TV or films. And then we performed improv together, and now he also does sketch. And I interviewed him at the the main Pit location where they have the shows and there's a bar and everything. And this was 3 weeks ago when the coronavirus was just starting, but before the quarantine, and it got like it is now. So when I went, I think that was the last time I took the train into New York, and since then I've been in New Jersey, kind of just staying in and trying to keep it more laid back. But when I went into New York to interview him, it was sort of like one of those, I don't know. I'm sure some of you are familiar with George Romero, who did the old Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, and Day of the Dead, and it made me think like one of his movies where nobody was out, because like there was barely anybody walking around in New York, even then, before the quarantine, because people were worried about catching it. And yeah, I was expecting like a zombie to pop out or something, but yeah, I don't think this is the zombie apocalypse. I'm just saying, it felt kind of like that. But anyway, it was a good conversation. We also got into some introspective topics that you'll hear later in the interview, and I hope some of you find that insightful. This is a conversation. I hope you enjoy it.
All right, here we are talking in the low. We both have that kind of low range voice. Yeah,
We have
like low range baritone speakers, I guess.
monotone, baritone.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could be singers in an a cappella group eventually down the line.
Do like a musical improv a cappella.
Yeah, I'd love musical improv, so I'd be down. I guess we'll go into how we met. Because
we met doing background work.
Yeah, film extra work back in the day. Probably, I'm trying to remember which year, if it was like 2014, 15, or am I
something like that. I think it was. Trying to think which show it was. It was. I think it was that show with like Kevin, not Kevin Bacon. Was it?
Following?
It might have been that.
Probably, I think so. That was a terrible show to work.
Yeah.
For me, anyway. It was like something with the what's it called? I don't know, it was something with like a marketplace. Were you there for a marketplace? And there was
Something like that. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
No, we were actually on a boat. That was it. It was like a movie. It was like a series based off a movie with Bradley Cooper or something.
Oh, Limitless.
Yeah, Limitless.
I don't remember being on a boat, but I remember working
yeah.
on that show. You know.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So it's been. Yeah, I remember we used to do the a lot of the Triple Crown stuff. Like you were one of the first film extras who I saw who was like, doing sort of improv stuff, as well as Clinton, who's another I'm sure friend of yours, I believe.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So it's like this is kind of almost a little bit of the same communities. Once I started like crossing over. But I haven't done film extra work in quite some time. I've kind of slowed down or kind of stopped completely, to be honest. You know.
Yeah, I haven't done it in a while. I think I did it like maybe once or twice last year because then I started doing like this sales job as a day job and then doing this show and then doing improv on the side.
Yeah, and this stuff I think is like, to be honest, like I think more fulfilling. You know, like the whether it's like a podcast or performing. You know, it's like, and after a while, it's like, how many times are you going to appear on TV? You know,
it gets
as an
old
extra.
after a while. Like
Yeah. And I mean, I utilized the extra work, I guess, if we want to jump into some events I've run, as I do Donovan S. World's Greatest Film Extra. And what I do is I play like, you know, we've done a lot of extra work. And there's often those people on sets who have like big egos.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, I was featured on this. I'm like, well, so was I. I don't have a big ego, you know? So it's like, this event is about that. It's like, it shows real life pictures of me. Because I've been featured quite a lot on TV shows, but at the end of the day, like, you know, I'm not like super famous, you know? I'm happy to be featured, but it's like, I don't know, no one's asking for my autograph, you know? So it's like, you know?
Well, people don't usually notice like the background person unless it's like mentioned that they were.
Yeah. Or even if you are featured, it's like, well, we don't know who that is. We're not watching for the film extras, unless it's like our parents or family members, you know? It's like, you know, we're supposed to just kind of blend in. But if we are featured, it's like people still aren't going to be like, oh, okay, that's a good-looking guy, I guess. I would hope they would say about me, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's just like background. It's not really acting. Like if you want to get more into acting and performing, it's not gonna. I mean, it's good for networking and seeing how a set works, but it's not.
No, definitely. So I do that because, like I said, I kind of retired from film extra work because I do more improv and sketch comedy and characters and writing and I've written now 2 solo shows that I've produced here at the or one long solo show and then one like variety show that had solo elements, and then I've done so many, like as you've seen on Instagram, I'm always doing characters, like pretty much solo prov as well. I know you wanted to dive into that as well.
Yeah, because I thought that looked neat. Because like I have a lot of different characters I do. Because like I'm interested in. I mean, I've done some voice acting, like for little radio skits and stuff like that. But I thought it'd be neat to like do a show like where I do like a different character. Like I have this kind of mobster voice. He talks kind of like this, to do a whole show talking like this guy. You know. How did you find out about that kind of performance? Like.
I would say so. I guess like I always kind of knew in a way, but I think it took seeing a show at the Pit, because even on YouTube I used to do a lot of characters where I would play kind of same character back in the day, like even like 2013 to like when I was doing a lot of YouTube videos, 2014, 15. So I was used to doing characters, but I didn't realize how I could bring it to stage until one night here at the Pit it wasn't even the show I was supposed to see. But just because I wanted to kill time, I'm like, I'll go watch this show until the other show is out. And at the end of the show, or the whole show, was this guy, his name is Gary Denona, I believe, and he does like amazing characters and impersonations. And I realized then, I'm like, wait a minute, I used to do characters on YouTube and for film and video. And then basically when you're performing improv, you're essentially playing different characters. So I'm like, improv is like basically you're doing characters and acting without like the props and costumes. So then I realized, I could do characters with the actual props and costume, and that could be like people will come to a show because there's a character, there's an improv performer, there's a stand-up, there's a storyteller. Now you've got a whole variety show. I watched that show and I realized, because I have so many costumes and I'm used to doing characters on YouTube back in the day, that now I can do characters. And then that's when I started a month later doing like live characters for the first time.
And so the video I saw was sort of like a Star Trek inspired character, right?
Which Captain Ego?
Captain Ego, yeah.
Oh yeah. And that was and I know you've seen 2 videos recently. I know you saw the solo prov, and which we could get into that later. And then Captain Ego. So that was scripted. That was about 20 minutes altogether, like 15-page script for SoloCom here at the Pit.
So you just call it like SoloCom? The SoloCom and Solo Prov are 2 different.
Oh, SoloCom is the name of the Pit Festival, where it's supposed to be scripted solo shows.
Yeah, so it's just like a one-man show, I guess is what you call it.
Yeah, and this is scripted. So the solo prov was just improvised.
Okay.
That was made up off of a suggestion. But this Captain Ego was a written show that I wrote, and I had a director. We actually, in this space that we're recording this right now, is a lot of the stuff took place, like a lot of the directing. It's a good space.
So this is like where you came up with the ideas of the show for Captain Ego.
Just the directing. I mean, I could get into the ideas of that. That was basically inspired by. I'm a big sci-fi fan, and I've written a lot of sci-fi stories over the years. I was able to copyright my series, and I realized I really want to get my sci-fi stories out. But sometimes, I've been trying to write novels, but sometimes it could be a little hard for me. But I like writing scripts because I went to film school. And so I realized also last year or 2 years ago, I went to my first solo comedy, 2017, and I realized, I could do a scripted show, but it just the wheels took a little longer to finally start grinding in my head. But I came up with that because in improv I would play Captain Kirk a lot, and I was like, I could do Captain Kirk impersonation, but I wanted to dive deeper. So Captain Ego is basically dealing with sort of masculinity and emotions, because as a man he's told not to put his emotions out there and to be a real man by his dad is like a macho man. So this is about that, and also how he's a big galactic hero, but nobody ever sees the real him. It was inspired by real life and just sci-fi and kind of Star Trek. But it is very much in my own sci-fi universe, even though he is a Captain Kirk type. All the references are planets I've created, or aliens I've created, or weapons I've created in my sci-fi stories.
So there was a social commentary you were doing with it too, not just, aside from it just being funny.
Yeah, and not too much, because I never like to mix too much stuff, but I believe having your own point of view will still help. You know what I mean? And I think that's a good point of view to be like, at certain times a man can't show his emotions. It's always like you got to be. At least for me growing up, it was like you have to be a man. You got to be a man can't cry. And I'm like, well, I think that's the opposite. I think first off, anybody should be able to cry. You know what I mean? And second off, to hold in your emotions is really bad. So if you feel like you need to cry or you want to be happy, just do it. It shouldn't matter whether you're a man or a woman. Just show your emotions. So that's what this is about. Just showing your emotions no matter who you are. Yeah.
When I guess I imagine that is kind of challenging thing to be raised with as an artist, because as an artist you have to express yourself and say how you put your feelings into your work.
So that was but I was raised more by my mom, so my mom was always like, you can be sensitive and it's okay, and you can show the emotions. So I still had that side, but there was always a conflict, because my dad would be like, you gotta, like I said, be a man, and then my mom was like, you can show emotions, but because it was a kind of a conflict. But I ended up obviously going the more sensitive route, because that's even as a kid I was a lot more sensitive. I would just I would cry I was too sensitive. I would cry at the slightest thing, if I got bullied, because bullying sucks, and then especially if you're sensitive. So I think that in a way now it's hard for me to cry, because it's I'm so I cried a lot, so I'm that's why I do have a very, I think, monotone and very stiff face, very dry face, and if something affects me, it's I don't know, what are you gonna do,
So you think there's a balance? Maybe you need a balance of both, I guess, right? Is that what you found?
Yeah, I think so. And when I perform, I show emotion. Sometimes I think it's a little harder when I'm speaking. If you're speaking to me and you don't know me, it might be hard, because I've had people be like, man, I can't tell. But when I'm performing on stage, and I know you've seen me perform, and we've seen each other perform, I know I'm able to bring it. I can play a surprise character, a happy character, a sad character. Just something about being in front of people, being on the stage,
like being energized by the presence of an audience.
Yeah, and
connecting with them.
Yeah, and even if they're, we've done Triple Crown a lot, and sometimes, I'm sure maybe you had it, but Triple Crown sometimes there's nobody in the audience. But I think we've still gone up there. I've never been, and you can speak for yourself, but I've never been like, oh, there's nobody in the audience, I'm not going to go up. Like, I'm already here. I'm gonna still give it a good performance, at least for the people on the sidelines.
Well, it definitely feels better when there is an audience with.
Oh yeah,
definitely. I feel like improv's gotten me comfortable. Like I could do other kinds, branch out into more other kinds of performing now, and not be as nervous because I'm just doing that every week at the Triple Crown. Sometimes it's larger. I just got kind of used to it.
Yeah. And you've done. I mean, of course, you said you're in level 2 right now, right?
Yeah, level 2. Yeah. The pit. Yeah.
And you did my drop-in class recently, which I really appreciate. So you're getting yourself out there,
Yeah. And improv, I guess, it can help with like traditional acting too, which I want to get more into too. And I kind of and I want to do like like maybe written comedy too.
Sketch. Yeah. Oh yeah. And this is like perfect. Like I know we were talking about characters earlier, and like how I did Captain Eagle, which was written by me, and like I said, now I'm writing a lot more. It's just like you get that first one done, as because you've done a lot of episodes of podcast and radio, and it's like, and even we could even count film extra work, because that's an achievement of itself to do that much as we've done. But all it takes is just, I realize, because now because I wrote the first one, I'm like, oh cool, let me write the second one, oh cool, let me write the next one. So now I'm in the mindset, I'm just trying to write. Like one of the last ones I wrote, which is in, I think, draft 6, is I think it's about 16 to 18 pages. There's one I wrote that was like 20, and these are more like solo focused shows. Yeah. But then I also did a sketch show with my 2 prop partner Strave. We did a sketch show, and I wrote 3 of the sketches. He wrote 1, and then we shot 3 video sketches using my Canon 80D camera. So it feels good when it's like, even like with the character stuff, because as much as I love improv, like I think the other stuff like belongs to you more. Like if you do, I've taken storytelling class at the Magnet, and I could do 2 storytelling shows because of 2 classes. I could do like 2 solo shows based off those stories.
So storytelling show, that's like you up there narrating a story. How does that work?
That's like a real story from real life. I mean, I'm sure you could do like let's do a made up storytelling show. But then again, I think that's kind of just improv.
But so it's different from stand-up, right? So is it? Because I know the Magnets, it's not just improv, but it mainly focuses on comedy. So is it comedic storytelling, or?
I think it could be a mix of from what the 2 classes I took, which with Adam Wade, who's really excellent teacher. I think it was a mix. Like it didn't. Yeah, we were never told like it has to be like funny. It's just like tell a good story. Get the details in there. Because you're sort of painting a picture. And even recently he asked me to do a show, I think a few weeks ago at the Magnet, so it's kind of my first time performing at the Magnet Theater, because in the Magnet they have 2 spaces you can perform. There's like the free space for the classes, which I've done that for my 2 classes, actually 4 classes I've taken there, and then they have the main stage on 29th. So I went there to perform, and it was like completely different. It was kind of the first time I had done like a storytelling performance like that, where the mic, they have the mic and they have the spotlight, and it felt really cool. And it maybe wasn't my favorite performance, but I'm like happy, like, oh cool, I can do storytelling now. I can do characters. I can do sketch acting. I can do improv. Like this whole world opens up. But yeah, it doesn't necessarily need to be comedic. I have a story about the Coast Guard. I didn't get to do my story about the Coast Guard, but that's not really very there's comedic elements.
You work for the Coast Guard, or?
Yeah, I was in the Coast Guard. We could get into that as well. I don't mind. I was in the Coast Guard for 11 months. I received honorable discharge. So I did that just for 11 months. I think from late 2016 to middle of 2017.
Yeah. Well, so what drew you to that? Because I know that's a little different than everything else.
How'd I what?
What drew you to that? Because I know that was different than everything else you're pursuing, like the art and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess I sort of felt like before the Coast Guard, I felt like as you know, I was doing a lot of film extra work because I did know you at the time, but I was just struggling. like I have a film degree. I went to Five Towns College. I have a Bachelor in Fine Arts in Film and Video. But I felt like kind of lost in the world because I tried to join a wrestling school, which is like basically kind of like an improv school, but like for like if you want to train to be a wrestler. I didn't want to be a wrestler necessarily. I wanted to be like a wrestling manager, which if you're familiar with wrestling, it's like the guy who speaks or the woman who speaks for the wrestler. Because sometimes there are wrestlers who can't talk, who are terrible on the mic, who have terrible acting skills, and so they'll have a manager speak for them. Like, this is my client. This is my client. Look at all these muscles. He's got the greatest muscles of all, and then basically they'll put them over. So I wanted to join a wrestling school, and the person was like, "Oh, you can pay $400 and you'll be good because you just want to be like a manager." I was like, "Oh, cool, I'm good. I'll pay the $400." And I was struggling with money, but I was like, I need to do this. But then they kept hounding me for money. So it was like one of those things where it's like, oh, if you wanted me to pay the full thing, I wish you would have just told me at the beginning. I don't like being misled. So I was kind of misled, and so I left that. Then I took a UCB class, but it was just like I was applying for jobs, and it was just like a struggle. I was like, I don't know. I'm trying to apply for film extra work wasn't steady enough. Freelance gigs were like few and far between. Regular jobs weren't accepting me, and then internships weren't accepting. Or I've done like 2 internships, 3 internships. I was like, I don't want to do another internship. So I was lost, And then I was like, I guess I'll just enlist because they accepted me, and I thought it could be a good life experience. I would learn a lot. I would travel, And I was doing it with passion behind. There was like a passion to grow, but then I realized that's not what I really want to do. I started to become like super depressed regular depressed.
Yeah.
And so I thought maybe like, okay, I'll be okay. And I kept pushing forward, but I realized each day I was like still depressed, And I was trying not to I'd never let it affect my work, because I was like, I'm not gonna let it mess with my work. So I just kept pushing forward. But eventually I realized I think I knew what I wanted to do. And I said, even if I struggle in life, I should at least not be depressed. And I'm not saying military isn't a walk in the park, you know what I mean? It's definitely not a walk in the park, but I think also there should be like a little passion of like, this is something that most people really want to do, as opposed to like a last ditch effort. So I think because it was like, oh, this is a last ditch effort, that's why I think I became depressed, because that wasn't my mindset, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I guess they helped you like financially a lot. And I guess there's a lot of people that get into the military for those reasons too.
Yeah, and I mean, it was definitely good with like the money and the health stuff, because you could go to the doctor at any time. But like I said, I was just always so fatigued, and I know, and that's what it is. Like, military is not easy, like not everybody does it, so it's not easy. So, but I was just always tired and depressed, and those two weren't good. But I realized it wasn't, because there's a lot of depression in the military, of course, and fatigue, because it's tough.
Yeah.
But also I realized even if I got help, even if I went to therapists every week, like I realized this isn't who I am, because people I spoke to, they're like, yeah, you go to a therapist and you'll be fine. But I realized their mindset was this is who they are. They're Coast Guard or they're military at heart. And I realized it wasn't in my heart. Even if I had passion behind it, it might have been false passion. Just to maybe be like, because I was at a dead end. But I'm still glad I did it. Because it's like now it's like, oh wow, it was something really tough. And I didn't really give up, because I was like, I was gonna push forward. I just realized I wouldn't be an asset to the military if I'm depressed, and they understood that, and they saw that I kept trying to get better, but they were like, we'll just give you an honorable discharge because you're trying, but we see it's not working. Like you're a good person. So I came back. I took a UCB level 2, which if you want me to jump into that, I can as well.
Sure.
Yeah. Gotta get the water, Well, I took UCB level 2, but they gave me a failing grade. So that was like another shot in the foot. So I'd already dealt with like a lot of depression with the Coast Guard. I came out, UCB, and they gave me a failing grade, and I was like, I don't know, what the hell am I supposed to do, you know? Like, I was at my wit's end because I felt like I didn't deserve to fail the class. And I'm definitely a better improviser, like, now than I was then. I've definitely grown up a lot, like, you know. But I felt like I did not deserve to fail that class. So that left a sour taste in my mouth. Because I believe as somebody who's went to school and who's in the military and who's worked multiple jobs, that if you're going to fail something, you should know before the graduation show. UCB will do a thing where it's like you won't find out your failing grade until after, like 10 days after the graduation show or something like that.
Oh, so UCB grades you on the different classes, so it's a little different than the magnet. Yeah. I don't think
magnet doesn't grade either. Yeah, yeah, and I mean I guess I understand it, but also it's like I think like, you know, because a teacher will give you you know, and you've taken class as well, and I've taught class, and every teacher is going to give you comments. Hey, do this. Yes, and hey, don't turn your back to the audience. You know, so we were always getting that. But like I was like, okay, cool. I thought I was implementing it, but I guess because I was in that mode of like after the Coast Guard and depression, and it was still kind of like new in my mind. I thought, oh, I implemented it. You know, because the teacher didn't come to me afterwards and be like, hey, listen, let me sit down with you. I think you have to really implement it or you're going to fail a class. There wasn't an email sent. You know, that's what I would do as a teacher. If I felt like somebody would fail, I would sit you down and I'd be like, hey, you just need to really work on this. Because you give a comment during class, it's hard. Sometimes it's hard during class, you know, to focus, and there's a million different things. And you don't know if somebody has, I deal with focus issues, you know, so I just wish they would have taken the approach differently, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if she would have sat down with me and been like, you're gonna fail if you don't do this, and then if I didn't implement it, then I felt like it would have been my fault. But I don't feel like it was my fault, and you know. But whatever. I'm here now. Like I do a lot of stuff at the pit. I do classes at Magnet, so I bounce back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I guess we didn't really go into the beginning that much. Like, where did your interest in comedy, art, and everything you do start?
I know we went all over the place.
Yeah.
It was fun though. Yeah, I think it would start. Definitely as a kid, my mom introduced me to a lot of like fun stuff. I think the two major things was Spaceballs by Mel Brooks. I'm not sure. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, the Star Wars parody with and then they had that giant dog, John Candy. It was supposed to be like Chewbacca. He's called Barf.
So I watched that film, and I watched it. I think I must have watched that film at least like almost every day for like a long time. You know, because it was just so like funny. As a Star Wars fan, I was like, I'd never seen something like this, like that. Then there were actually two more things. So Spaceballs was a big factor of like because Mel Brooks is such a dry face, and he does stuff with a straight face, which is like me and you are very straight faced. So there's that. Then the classic show. I'm sure you're familiar. Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Yeah.
And Whose Line Is It Anyway is great. Even though it's short form improv, it was my first exposure to improv. Of like these four talented people would just make it up as they go along. You know, they would do things like they would press mute on a TV show, which I would do with my friends often. Like, and then that was also improv because we'd press mute and then we would play characters on the TV. They do little games like the hoedown and the dance thing and the musical numbers. They do things where like they would play celebrity impersonations. And they were all making it up at the just right there. Even though it was of course pre-recorded, but they still made it up in that pre-recorded moment. So I watched that. That really caught my attention. And then also doing. Are you familiar with the Mad Libs?
Mad Libs.
Yeah.
That sounds familiar. Oh, is that the little stories where you like fill in a blank? Yeah.
Yeah. So it was like fill in the blank with whatever word, or I guess it was certain words like an adjective or a noun or whatever. I don't even think I played by the rules. I would try to put in a funny word because it was funny when you would put a funny word in. So those were those three things. And my mother was always, as I mentioned before, she embraced the imagination. She was like, oh, write down your stories and do your videos and do all the like creative stuff you can. So yeah, definitely Spaceballs, Whose Line, Mad Libs, and my mom, and probably fostered from a young age, I would say. Yeah. Hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, and then I guess so. What you tried to pursue film first, like out of high school, and then it kind of went from there. How did
Yeah. So one of my close personal friends, Jason the Ram, as he's called, we got into some YouTube videos back in 2007, and I was like, oh, I wanted to be a filmmaker before then because I loved George Lucas. You know, it was one of my, Steven Spielberg, like Star Wars and Hook, some of my favorite films. But I would do like VHS movies at the time, which I do have archived on my computer, and they would sort of just be me and talking toy movies, because sometimes it'd just be myself, which is another kind of wonderful improv thing. I was just making up these. I would do like Star Wars Galactic Wrestling Federation with Star Wars toys and have like Mace Windu versus Jar Jar Binks for silly stuff like that. So I did that, and then my friend Jason the Ram, he would do YouTube videos, and I was like, oh, I want to do that. So he got me in my first YouTube video, I think sophomore year of high school, a little video called Run, which you can't even find on YouTube anymore. I've got archived. But basically my only line was like, I tie him up like he's like, you go to hell, hey, run. I push him, and then he's running, and I pull out like a mortar gun. That's like it's supposed to be a real gun, and then I shoot him in the back. And so that was like my first exposure. I'm like, oh shoot, and people are watching this on YouTube, and people are commenting and stuff like that, and I'm like, this is what I realized what I wanted to do. So yeah, I went to film school, and I think my only issue is that I went to film school in Long Island now that I realize, because I got to work with a lot of great people, but after I came back here, it was tough because most of my friends were located on Long Island, and like to get there back and forth, especially without a car, was kind of a hassle. I can do it now, it's easier. I understand the Long Island Railroad now, like even though I haven't been there in a while, I understand how to get to my college better because I did it a few times. Yeah, so that was kind of on me, I mean, it was a good school, but because I went to one in Long Island and they were lived in Long Island, and I came back to Brooklyn, it was like, oh, I was starting like with nothing basically. After college, I did a few independent production assistant gigs. And I think I got tired of it because I really, I don't think I grew out of it because I still do films. I still do sketch films to this day, and I still can shoot stuff with my Canon 80D, and I know how to lighting and audio and all that stuff. I just think because most of my friends were in Long Island and then I was here, and then I kind of got tired of doing PA work. I was just I felt like I wasn't treated right. But then again, it's also PA's at the bottom of the totem pole,
Yeah.
So I was like, I mean, I don't know, what did I expect, And then I think I wanted to just do more performing. I felt like, if that answers your question.
Yeah, you want to get more into the performing rather than being behind the scene.
Yeah, and I mean, I still have, of course, like I said, now I'm writing a lot more and then doing more solo scripted shows and doing characters that are scripted. But I think, I guess I realized, I don't know, I guess it was like a shift of focus. So I still love writing and filmmaking. Yeah. I know we wanted to talk about WWE stuff as well.
Yeah. And also, you do interview. You're interested in interviewing too. I do interviews.
Yeah, I thought. Oh, sorry, what were you gonna say?
Oh no, I want to elaborate on that. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that was one of the reasons why I tried to join the wrestling school back as I mentioned earlier. But because I was I really want to be WWE manager and interviewer, because I was also a part of a backyard wrestling federation. And for those unfamiliar, backyard wrestling is basically wrestling, but in a park or in a yard on a mat, outside. And you can look up videos. They say don't try it at home, but this was especially we didn't have money back in the day. Now I've got a little more money. I work, but this was kind of an outlet to do backyard wrestling. I would play character. I was terrible at the wrestling, so I kind of backed away from that. Now I could probably be a better wrestler, but I don't want to hurt myself because I already deal with minor back issues and stuff like that from Coast Guard or stuff like that. So I did that, and I used one of my characters, Donovan Santiago, from when I used to role play online. I used to role play and type out wrestling promos and you would type them out each week, and they would decide who would win the match. So I did that, and in 2003, when I started watching wrestling, I realized I wanted to do stuff with WWE. So eventually in 2013, I did a video with Daniel Bryan, who's this bearded wrestler who shouted in my ear, and you could look it up on YouTube, WWE Fan Correspondent Contest. My grandmother still gets mad at him to this day, even though that was years ago. I was in the top 100 for WWE Tough Enough in 2015, which was like a competition where they wanted to find the next great wrestler. But I was only I think I was in the other 60 because they only brought the top 40 to Florida to do a tryout. So I was in the 60 people because I received an email, so I didn't make it there. And then you've worked AOL Build, right? Before you've done AOL Build as an audience member.
I'm not familiar with that as AOL Build.
Yeah. Well, this was just Onset Productions is also like kind of like you can do background for like Beat Bobby Flay or like Steve Wilkos or Jerry Springer. So you're essentially an audience member. So I did a lot of AOL Build where you could actually talk to celebrities and ask them questions. And so I would do that whenever I would ask a question to a celebrity. I would put that on like a reel. I have like a hosting reel, I believe I sent you. So I got to ask like John Cena a question. I got to ask Stephanie McMahon, who's like one of the heads of WWE, a question. I got to ask the cast of the Fantastic Four film, the crappy Fantastic Four film. Well, I mean they're all pretty crappy, okay. But the 2015 with like Michael B. Jordan, I got to ask them a question at AOL Build. A bunch of other celebrities as well, like one of the lead actresses from Fear the Walking Dead, her name escapes me, but so I was doing that. I did BuzzFeed live. I got to ask another wrestler a question. So I was just doing all those like videos because then I put them in a reel, and now it's like I have a hosting reel. I have an interview reel. I don't know if I'm going to pursue WWE anymore if they come to me, because for me to pursue WWE, I should join a wrestling school. But I think I'm too involved in the improv and sketch, you know?
And did you want to be a wrestler at one point, or was it more like just interviewing? Like, did you want to do,
Yeah, I wanted to be, I think when I was younger, but that was a thing that, like, once again, I was told by a certain family member, like, you probably shouldn't do that. And so I was like, oh, okay. So I think the ship has sailed on that. I think I could still be an interviewer with WWE. The only issue is, like, to join a, what were you going to say? Yeah.
No.
Oh, yeah. The only issue is, like, and I would have to first off join a wrestling school, and there's a lot better ones that I could find, definitely. But the only thing is, if I join a wrestling school, that's going to take away from improv and sketch and characters and hosting, you know. And I also, as you know, I produce a lot of events here. So that's probably why I won't do that, because I'm already I'm tired in a good way, and overwhelmed in a good way because I'm performing a lot. But to add something else, and I'm teaching as well, so it's like I can't.
Yeah, you got to just pursue. There's only so much you can pursue at once, and I guess that's in a different direction, the WWE.
Yeah, and then it's like now, if I had done wrestling school earlier, then who knows where I probably could have been in WWE right now, you know. Yeah. But
like for me, like interviewing, like the podcast and acting can kind of tie together.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I feel. Like. Cool, I'm doing improv house team. I'm doing a character. I'm doing drop-in classes. I'm writing a scripted show that's gonna, you know, that's my own work. So yeah, that ties together. And plus, you know what? I'm sure I could do stuff with WWE eventually. Like it's not like out of the question, you know. But in terms of going to a wrestling school, it would just be, I can't fatigue myself anymore, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. But also, like it was cool. Because one of my friends who's successful, he was at AOL Build, and I got to ask him a question, and that was cool because I'm like, oh, this is a friend of mine. I knew him before he was like famous, and now look at him, and he's still like the same guy. So that was really cool, you know.
So what do you have planned next for the future with everything?
Well, in general, I mean, first off, I guess I'll put my Instagram as Donovan TPS. So Donovan TPS, and I'm always doing shows here, like at the Pit in different places. I've got solo shows I'm writing. I have a birthday show, April 17th. You know, I'm doing a scripted, so it's scripted and it's variety. Pit house team every Monday at the 8 p.m. slot, the Sugarfoot Improv. Got a few things where I'm doing characters. I have a magnet class show coming up. I mean, I just have a bunch. Like if you follow me, I have drop-in classes. I post all about it. I'm just trying to finish writing these 2 drafts for these other 2 solo shows, and I want to see which one I want to produce next. I think that's about. Yeah, I think that. Yeah, I have a lot. Yeah.
And I guess it's just, have you found a lot of like setting up shows is more like, I guess, about networking and like meeting people who are like put on your show and stuff like that?
Yeah, it's definitely networking. Like I would not have been able to. I don't think I could produce a solid show like if I first started. Like if I immediately started taking class through 2017. Oh, I'm gonna like do a show. My thing was I waited to meet like, oh, you're a stand-up, you're an improviser, you do characters, you do sketch, you're a tech. Because also like every show needs a tech, you pay your tech. But I wanted to be a lot more comfortable with the people where I could like easily message them. So that's why it took me probably like more than a year to produce my own show. But now I've produced over 20 shows. I think I'm at next one might be 26 to 27. I've done improv, variety, sketch shows, character shows. I love it, to be honest.
I think it's funny how we have some similar mannerisms though. Like, we talk, Because I do that same thing. Like when I start talking, then I say, oh, what were you gonna say?
Yeah.
Yeah, when I'm just like when the other person's just like listening. It's kind of fun.
I know sometimes my mind is like going like I could talk for a while. So I'm like, oh, hold on, let me not cut you off. Or I get like distracted sometimes, which isn't a knock on the person. Sometimes I just get like, oh, there's a light over there, like which there is.
I can get distracted too.
I think it's probably maybe the artist, like being a nice artist is being able to let somebody be like, oh, I've talked a little too much, like especially even in improv. Sometimes I feel like if I talk too much, I'll be like, let me step back,
But for a podcast, it's good to.
Oh, for podcast. Yeah. No, definitely. I mean, I've always been like talkative growing up, so it's like, but also like I've been trying to show more mannerisms in my face on a regular basis, because I think that does help. Because I realized I was like, Oh, were you gonna say no?
You see, we did it again.
I saw your mouth open, so I was like, I was ready to. Well, no, I just got out of my first relationship, so I mean I could talk about that. It's fine. And she was like, yeah, I thought you were like a mean person at first because my face is so stiff.
Are you talking this recently? This?
Yeah.
Okay.
So she was like, I thought your like face was like not face. I thought you were like just a cold person because I didn't really get to talk to you. But then it's like then I talked to you and you were a nice person. So I'm like, I don't know, maybe I just like that's how my face is. Like I don't have wrinkles, at least, that's what people tell me. I'm like, I don't. It's like you don't have any wrinkles. I don't think you have any wrinkles. I can't tell.
I don't
So it's like maybe it's better. I mean,
I've been told I look a little younger than I am. Some people think I'm still in my 20s at times, but I think not as much now. Now I think I pretty much look 30.
How old are you?
30.
Oh, you are? Okay,
I turned 30 last May, so 31's coming up.
Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah. 29 is coming up for me in April. So so I'm like just who I am, but I am trying to like show like more emotion, especially towards somebody if there's somebody who I like.
I'm trying to smile more because sometimes I'm trying to like smile. It's hard to do though, like walk around like.
I know it's weird. I don't like to force it.
You want to be like the Joker, like.
Yeah, I know. That's
like smiling like creepy. But.
Yeah, I know. Did you work the Joker film?
I never did, but I kind of wish I had because that. The movie was really good. I worked Gotham a bunch of times, but I like Joker better than Gotham, I think. Well, they're totally different, so you can't really.
Yeah, no, they're both good. I worked Gotham a lot back in the day. I mean, if we want to talk, we could jump back into extra work. Why not? Probably the most featured thing that I've done was probably one of the last things I did. Like the last 2 things I did were the show FBI, which is a Dick Wolf production. So it's like Law and Order universe, I guess, or something like that. And I was a photo. They used a photo of me as a photo still, because I'm sure you've done that as well, where they just use your photo. Mm-hmm. And I played like the human trafficker, his brother or something. Or I was a human trafficker, and I was the brother of one of the guest stars on the show. And that was cool because you see your photo, and I was like, yeah, that's me. They made me 38 years old, and I'm like, well, I look pretty good for, At the time, I think I was 27. So it's like it's a good looking 38-year-old. So that was cool. And then Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. Have you watched?
I actually started revisiting it and watching it from the beginning. Because I watched the first season a while ago, then I forgot it. Now I'm getting back into why. Yeah. But I got to there was one scene where Martin Short's in it, and he plays like the plastic surgeon. I thought that was funny, but then I found out that they were mocking this one real Hollywood plastic surgeon, and then the guy they mocked was so upset about how he was mocked, he hung himself.
Oh, jeez.
So then it was like the episode was funny, but then it was like, oh, it's not that funny because it really hurts someone. But I mean, that is like you can't really help how someone's going to take a joke, but it's like it kind of made me think like, maybe sometimes being. I guess it's good to be able to make a joke, but then sometimes it's like do you really want to hurt someone if you can avoid?
Oh yeah, I know what you mean. That's tough with jokes. It's like sometimes I guess sometimes in a way sometimes you won't know, but sometimes and we've done improv a lot, and sometimes there are those people who like push the boundaries, and you can tell they're just trying to make people feel uncomfortable, and I don't think it's really nice because I think you can. I think even what we do, Triple Crown is like the wild, wild west of improv. So if you decide, I'm going to start doing improv, I mean it in like a good way, because you can kind of do whatever you want within reason. Like I'll take a lot more risk at Triple Crown, but I still won't take a risk at to make somebody feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
If it's a teammate, I'll mess with them. You know what I mean? But not to I'm not going to try to make them cry or target.
It depends how well you know the person.
I
feel like because I've been doing this one team for several months now, and I feel like I'm used to performing with some of the performers on that team. So there's a little more, but totally new people, it's different,
Yeah, and and then sometimes if it's at a jam, sometimes I'll be a jerk, but I'll be a jerk in a good way, where if somebody is constantly, and you've also seen this, I'm sure, of people not yes-anding or always asking questions, and it's usually a newer improviser, and they don't mean bad.
Yeah.
But then I'm there's sometimes there's a really weird person, and I'm a weird person, but in a different way of I can tackle that weird stuff. So I'm all right, put me in, coach, and I'll tackle, because I like to play with anybody. I think if you can play with anybody, I think then it's you become an even better improviser.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've been friends with I think I'm able to get along with everybody. Well, that's one of the things I noticed throughout life is oftentimes there'll be people arguing, and there are people I don't like, the people who don't like me, I don't care, to be honest, but there would be oftentimes where people would be oh, that person's really weird. I'm maybe you should just talk to them, and I would end up talking to them and make friends. One of my best friends is silent. It's pretty much she doesn't speak too much, and she also transitioned, you know what I mean? So already it's this is who this person always wanted to be. And now she's fully realizing this is who she is. But a lot of people wouldn't give her the type of day, back in the day. Even now, because it's I don't want to talk to somebody who's silent. So I feel even if you are weird and strange, because there's a lot of people who are strange in improv and acting, but I think they're also you have to take a chance on everybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that maybe you see at the Triple Crown, not you, but people might see the Triple Crown. I'm not going to take a chance talking to them, and I think you should, because I think there are a lot of genuine, cool, weird people.
Yeah.
And then you can tell if there is somebody who's just an asshole, then I'm not going to associate with them. You can be weird, but you can be a weird dickhead.
Yeah.
If you're send me those photos of you shirtless, and I'll be no. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, because that also what you said about learning to manage it, that made me think of something that kind of resonated with me, because I feel that's something I've learned over the years, is kind of to develop a persona, stay true to myself and be who I am, but also develop a persona that can get along with other people. Because I was kind of a weird kid, I guess, and stuff in a lot of ways, and sometimes I used to draw negative attention to myself, and that invited bullying, or people thinking what's with this kid, he's weird. But then as I got older, I learned to kind of adapt more to other people and make other people feel comfortable while still being myself and not being that weird, but still having my uniqueness and the things I'm passionate about, but having it be presented in a way, I guess, that other people can accept, or like that doesn't make other people uncomfortable, or draw negative attention, or draw negative experiences. Like a persona, I guess is what I call it. It's not a fake you, but it's more like something that you carry with you that helps you get along.
I think I know. Yeah, I know what you mean. It's like I guess a heightened version of like, or even like a more confident version. It's still you, because we present different versions of ourselves to different people, and people have different versions of us in our mind. Like some people, after I do the improv jams or improv shows, will come up to me and like be like, "You are the god. You're the god of improv. How did you do it? You are amazing. Teach me your ways." And I'm like, I appreciate that. And I've learned also you have to know your own self-worth. You know what I mean? So I think it is important to accept compliments. But you can't let them go to your head. But I have started becoming more accepting of compliments, where in the past I would still accept a compliment, but I'd be like, no, nah, it's okay. But there are some times where I'm like, oh yeah, keep complimenting me, because I am a very humble person.
Yeah, or like if so, I know what you mean by that. Like, or if someone compliments you, like you think you have to think of another compliment.
I know.
No,
I'm just like, I'll take the compliments, but there will be times where I'll be like, no, it's okay, I appreciate it. I'm still learning. And then once in a while, I'm like, you know what, I'm just gonna sit here and accept it, and I'll be like, thank you, I appreciate that, and I'm not gonna be like, but I am still in my head like, yeah, I'm just a humble person, because I'm even in my magnet level 3 class, the students will come up to me, be like, wow, you do all this great improv stuff. Why are you taking this class? And I'm like, well, I think you can learn from anybody. You can learn from the person at the bottom. You can learn from the person at the top. You could learn, from the Academy Award winner, or the person just making their first student film. So I'm in that mindset. That's why I love like my magnet level 3. It's a really fun class, and I'm learning a lot, And I think you're always going to be learning. If you eventually be like, I can't learn anymore, well then, I don't know, maybe you're not a human, you're an alien on a different planet,
Yeah, you could always improve. You could always learn. Like it's not about changing who you are. It's just about improving what's already there.
Yeah, and it's always like learning. Like I don't know. I think you learn something new every day. I think, even if it's small. Like maybe I shouldn't lick subway poles anymore. Not that I do that, especially with what's, but
That's an easy way to get the corona.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, geez. Just always learning, and like I said, you can. Yeah, I think to everybody who's listening, like, accept the compliment, and then just let it sit. Yeah.
And also, if you want to improve, don't beat yourself up to improve. Have compassion for yourself. Like, understand why. If you did something wrong, understand why you did what you did wrong, and like what and like have some empathy for yourself. Like, just accept. All right, I did this for this reason, but because I did that. Because I was trying to fulfill one need by doing that, but it interfered with this other need.
Yeah.
It interfered with my happiness in other ways. So in the future, I need to be conscious of that and do it differently.
Yeah, that happened to me recently, like, because I do get like a lot of compliments at the improv jam, and then I think the last improv jam I did on one of the Thursdays, I was just like so out of it and tired, and I was like, that wasn't my best, but it's okay, because. Like, you saw the solo prov video I did. Like, I love that solo prov set I did. It was really fun. And there was a bunch of other sets that week that were really great. So that's why I'm like, if I ever have a set I really don't like or is not the best, I'm like, it's okay. I mean, it's an adrenaline rush, as you know. It's like a drug to get a good improv set, to get that laughter. Like, so it's like, I want that drug, every time if I could. But I realize I'm not addicted necessarily. I like the drug of improv and laughter, but I realize if I have a week where I'm off, it's okay. That's not who I'm not a shitty performer. I'm just tired that day,
And then when and then when you accept things like that, it's easier to take it if somebody gives you a criticism too.
Yeah, we're not.
It's like, because like if somebody says something that's not true, or like you don't agree with it, it's like, okay, well, I don't really agree with that, but whatever, and that shouldn't affect you. And if they say something that's valid, it's like, all right, they were right.
Yeah.
So but you already kind of know that, or you're willing to look at that and accept that, and it doesn't bother you either way.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I feel. One thing that's really helped me as a performer is being able to take like storytelling classes or acting classes or improv classes, and I know it can be tough for people out there listening. Like, especially it's like, how do I money, but it's just like, man, I realize you just gotta scrounge it up, because you've taken level 1 and 2, and I've been seeing an improvement in you. You know, like I already saw like fun stuff beforehand, but even like in the dropping class, I was like, oh wow, you know, you're definitely like the classes are definitely helping. But even then, you were always like a fun performer. You know what I mean? But definitely like I know we talked about it. It's like
yeah,
the
like
classes,
object work. I think I definitely improved with.
Yeah, and you said you wanted to. I guess did you say this year you wanted to do classes to improve, or did we talk about that? Yeah. Like they help, and of course it's like of course it's money, it's tough. Where I know we're all like struggling, you know, here. It's just like, man, if you can take those classes, scrounge up, especially I think the improv classes, because you know you're getting your money's worth. I believe you're getting your money's worth.
Hey.
So yeah.
Well, thank you.
Oh yeah.
For coming on.
Shake hands.
Shake hand. Oh yeah, we're not ready to come
yeah.
We got to the elbow.
We already shook hands on the podcast. So
so now we both have Corona. I guess.
Oh Jesus! Oh God! I hope not. Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you for listening to BSing with Sean K on Radio Free Brooklyn. I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Donovan, and I hope you found some of the stuff, also the more personal stuff we got into, like him talking about his depression and how he got to a better state with that, and also the things we said about self-development and all that. I hope you found insightful or helpful as well if you're struggling with anything like anxiety and anything like that. And before we wrap up, I have some important announcements to make for Radio Free Brooklyn. If you enjoy listening to Radio Free Brooklyn when you're not in front of your computer, download our mobile app, the Radio Free Brooklyn mobile app, and you can listen to it wherever, whenever. Also, please be sure to subscribe to our monthly newsletter for the latest news about new programming and upcoming Radio Free Brooklyn events. You can sign up at radiofreebrooklyn.org/newsletter. Now, lastly, I'm going to tell you about our Drive to 5 fundraising. Radio Free Brooklyn's Drive to 5 fundraising campaign is underway. In May, Radio Free Brooklyn turns 5 years old, and we need to raise $25,000 so we can continue bringing you BSing with Sean K and our other great programming for another 5 years. We're only about 30% there, so we have a long way to go in just a couple of months. If we're unable to reach our goal, it might be adios amigos to this show and dozens of others. If you'd like to make a small monthly donation to help us reach our goal, the easiest way to give is to text RFB Give 5, the number 5, to 44321, and you can make a pledge right on your phone. We also have some great gifts for giving available on our website, including a limited edition 5-year t-shirts designed by former Clash manager Cosmo Vinyl. You might even be able to get a free one if you complete our monthly challenge. If you'd like to get one of these great premiums, you can make your donation at radiofreebrooklyn.org/drive-to-5. If you can't afford to give, you can still let us know how much you love us by calling our special voicemail at 718-673-8201. And leave us a message letting us know why you love Radio Free Brooklyn or to wish us a happy birthday. If you consent, your message may be played on the air. Thank you for listening to Radio Free Brooklyn. Your support keeps us alive. And thank you for listening to BSing with Sean K on Radio Free Brooklyn. I will be back next week, and you can also listen to my episodes on Spotify and iTunes and on my website, SeanKneese.com. And that about does it for tonight's episode. I'll catch you on the next one.